OConnell with Grand County Channel 18. I'm here with Chris Anthony. He's a skiing legend and iconic member of Warren Miller Entertainment. Welcome to Grand County.
I'm happy to be here.
Chris is very exposed to the ski industry in many ways. Obviously, skier of the weird and unusual, and impossible. Producer, journalist, teacher, advocate for youth initiative and skiing programs. So how did you get started?
I think it was like Warren himself in search of the inevitable free lift ticket, you know, just to keep skiing. I grew up in a youth program, in a ski club program, and it gets in your system, and I fell in love with the sport. Of course, my parents were in love with the sport and they were supportive of it. But you get to that stage where, for myself, it was alpine racing, where hopefully you're going to move on to the next level and keep it going, or there's that decision like you're not going to make that final cut. And so I reached that sort of U.S. ski team training group level, and then it was that decision, and I went on to college, went to the University of Colorado, and trained 1 year with their program, but eventually realized that maybe the competitive days were done, but my aspiration for skiing wasn't done. So I became a recreational skier, but I couldn't get the competition out of my system, so I would go to these fun events, these all-around competitions that they had a lot of back then. They were the combination of bumps, ski racing, jumping, and I did that. I also started teaching skiing. I just did whatever I could to be involved in the sport. And in the midst of that, and it was because of one of those competitions that the Warren Miller guys found me and asked me to go on a trip with them, and that sort of opened up this whole new door. I mean, I grew up with the films, watching them. Now all of a sudden I get to go on one of the trips, and going on one of the trips wasn't enough. You know, I wanted to go on more, so I wanted to stay involved. At the same time, the extreme skiing movement that the modern day sort of extreme skier that Scott Schmidt sort of made happen and everything was making this movement, and a few guys up in Alaska created a competition, the World Extreme Skiing Championships, and the way that they selected that first year of athletes was from the films. So it's just a coincidence that I happened to be in the movie, and then they pulled me to that competition. So now all of a sudden we had a whole new forum for our sport to sort of explode and take off, and I kind of embraced that, and I ran with it, and you can see what it's done with the sport since. I mean, all sorts of things have happened. The whole free ride movement has exploded, so new skis have come out, and the park and pipe and everything. All this stuff has happened because of those moments, you know, back then in the late 80s, early 90s. So we have alpine racing now, and we have big mountain and free ride, so it's incredible.
That's awesome. I mean, you touched upon it, is that from when I started skiing a long time ago and growing up, the start of the season always was the Warren Miller film. And in the Midwest, Warren would come and narrate these films, and it was, I mean, we lived for that. And so, you know, to see all of those locations for you growing up, as you said, and then get to be involved in them. Tell me just one spot that really sticks out in your mind out of all your travel. Well,
like you said, Warren, I grew up watching Warren narrate the films on the side too, and that meant a lot to me because it's about our community coming together at the fall time of the year, like we're going to do here in Winter Park, and everybody gathers and launches the season. But Warren, you know, he was getting older, and there was a lot of movies. He couldn't make it to all the movies, and then they were just showing it like a movie. And I thought, man, we need to personalize these again. And that's how I sort of became more involved again I started asking if I could come host some of the movies like Warren did, like I grew up. And that's kept me involved with the films as well, too. And it's also kept my longevity, you know, as one of the athletes. And what's sort of become tradition, I guess, with the producers down there. They're like, Chris is the goofball, we'll send him anywhere. So, and I usually don't say no. If that phone rings and those guys call you, I'm going to say yes to wherever it is. So, yep, some of the wackiest places I've been, I have to admit, like Iran was one of them. Even a cameraman decided at the last minute he didn't want to go. The second they took kidnapping insurance out on us, that was like, he's like, I'm out. And then, you know, there's places like that I've ended up, and I sit there going, how the heck did I get here? And like on the USS Nimitz, an aircraft carrier being deployed to the Gulf, all of a sudden I'm on there shooting a Warren Miller film, watching F-18s take on and off, and you know, cruising all over the ship, you know, in top secret areas of the ship, just because I'm a skier dude. Yeah. And but you know, they inserted me into the U.S. Marine Corps. Kazakhstan was pretty bizarre. Some of the harder trips I've done, down to Ecuador and climbing Cotopaxi, which is a fairly approachable climb, but when you're carrying a lot of film gear up and hiking in your ski boots, it changes it up a little bit. A couple of years ago, or a year and a half ago, going into Mongolia by horseback and sled on literally a 4-day trek in, 4-day trek in at -30 degrees to go find a lost Mongolian tribe that's been skiing for 3,000 years. That was an ultimate test right there.
Yeah, that was cool. And you know, you talk about them setting you up in situations where, you know, everyone's looking at it going, wow, and I'm sure you're thinking about the same thing. And you probably have a little microphone in there. Do they ever come across it and go, come on, Chris, don't be a chicken?
No, well, they know I'm dumb enough to probably, they don't have to say don't be a chicken, but but it's they usually, the combination of the cameraman and the athlete is it's pretty important, but we've come to respect each other. They know that I want to get them the best product possible. Yeah. And tell you the truth, the cameraman and Warren Miller, they're fairly conservative with, they don't want their athletes to get hurt.
Right.
So they're actually sort of always going to us, you know, are you sure? You know, we're sitting there going, I'm going to do this, and the cameraman's, are you okay with that? Good. They're always checking with you. Are you okay with that? Are you sure about this? And so they really do leave it up to the athlete. You know, the cameraman will sit there and say, I love this shot. Can you do something in it? And as the athlete, you sort of go, well, I could try to do this, and then he'll double check with you. If you're comfortable with that, I'll set up the shot and make it work. And then you go do your thing, and then their job is to, you know, make sure that what frame rate they're going to shoot it at, you know, are they going to pan into you, pull out, you know, they got to add all those, what they do, their artistic side. So it's a great combination.
Yeah, and that's good. I mean, because it's important to keep you safe, because we want to keep watching you ski, but it's also important to help people understand that, you know, this is the real deal.
Yeah.
And they need to be aware and educated, and I know there's some initiatives you're working on in creating awareness, so you know, that's great. Your new film, Wintervention,
yes.
This year, you know, I'm sure it's everything you just explained about the past films and more, because they always up themselves. I don't know how, but you always seem to up the bar, which is great. We all appreciate that. We've got some clips for that. Do we have those ready to roll?